All right, and welcome into the Fantasy Pros NFL Draft Show. We are exactly 50 days away from when the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock with the first overall pick, which means it's the perfect time to get the boys back in town for a 3-round, 1-quarterback Dynasty rookie mock draft. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, and I'll be going head-to-head with quite the cast of characters, including a man who's celebrating his 4-year anniversary at Fantasy Pros today. Yes, he's told us for about the past 4 years now how much he hates boneless wings, but loves those North Dakota State prospects. He's Derek Brown. D-Bro, congrats on 4 years, man. And what a better way to celebrate than getting your hands dirty with a little mock draft today?
Yeah, it's a lot better getting your hands dirty with adult chicken nuggets, aka boneless wings. It has been ruled in court. They are actually nuggets, although the judge didn't have the stones to sit there and hold people accountable, but it is what it is. But yeah, man, it's been a good ride, and looking to keep it on here at Fantasy Pros, man. Everything's on the up and up, and it's go time, dude. I didn't even actually realize until you said it, we are actually 50 freaking days away. Like, it feels so far away, yet so close, man.
It'll creep up on you just like those hot boneless wings. And you know, I have an issue with that statement. I've said this before, but we can hold that for another time because I also want to introduce one of the minds that we're going to be joined by today, a guy who always brings school back in session. We're welcoming in one of the founders of South Harmon Fantasy Football and a member of the BDGE team. He's Adam McFerran. Adam, great to see you again. How are you following the NFL Combine? And do you have any non-solicited bar food takes that you want to get out of the way before we jump in?
That's man. Loaded bunch of questions right away. I just want to start off actually with we were all kind of talking pre-show here, and I mean 50 days till the NFL draft. That's a huge check mark I wasn't aware of. But then D-Bro, acting like everything's just another day. 4 years. The guy's been there 4 years, anniversary. Listen, we got to give D-Bro his credit, man. It's crazy that time flies, and the thing is, he's getting better by the year. Honestly, as hard as that is to say, it's wild,
Like a fine wine or fine whiskey, sir.
Exactly,
I guess,
man.
Whatever.
As far as the boneless versus bone-in, I mean, listen, I'll eat them both. I like primarily all things chicken, but I definitely prefer a bone-in to a boneless by...
Smart man.
I mean, it's a...
Smart man.
As we get into the rankings here, doing, mock drafts, it's quite a bit of a tier jump for me, like bone-in versus boneless. So, yeah, definitely
Are you flats over drums, Adam?
Honestly... That's kind of crazy because people have been asking me more about that when I talk wings. I'm good with both. I kind of like both. Like some people want to pick one or the other if they could. Like you can do that at certain restaurants now. I like to have a good mixture, man. I like them both.
Man, if I have the option, I'm going all flats only because of what you can do with like just the twist action. And people they don't know about this. Like you could twist the bones on the side and pull them out, and then it's just all the chickens there, man. So it makes for easy eating. But before we get into this mock draft, dude, well, exactly. And I just want to give Adam his flowers, man. I think he's one of the sharpest guys in the Dynasty space.
Agreed.
An absolute grinder. He's not going to hop on here and toot his own horn, but I think that also is one of the things that makes him absolutely freaking fantastic. He's humble, he works hard, and he's honestly one of the people that, like, we've talked offline for years, dude, and I'm a huge fan of your work through and through with South Harmon, BDG, all of it, man.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. And I know the guys here on this crew is, as soon as Seth sent me the invite, I'm like, man, I can't. You serious? Do I want to come? Can't wait to hang out with these guys and talk it up. I will say, too, that it doesn't surprise me about your flats. This guy is a master of manipulation. So when you talk about the wings, man, that doesn't make any bit of sense other than him going with the flats. I love to see it.
Well, as noted today on the program, folks, we have a 3-round rookie mock draft for 1-quarterback leagues. We're going to go pick by pick, leaving you, the listeners, to decide who drafted the best and the worst. And we're going to start there by giving a quick shout out to everyone tuning in either on the brand new Fantasy Pros Dynasty YouTube channel or the audio feed. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, and we can only do that with your help. So please do us a quick favor. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the channels if you're new. And if you want a chance to win a Colston Loveland signed Chicago Bears mini helmet for absolutely free, courtesy to our good friends over at pristineauction.com, All you need to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros Dynasty YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on any of our videos, and that's it. We will announce a winner right here on the program, so make sure you ring the bell so you can be alerted when we have new shows up and to claim your prize if you are that lucky winner. And Adam, since you've been a long time friend, since you are taking up some time out of your busy schedule to be with us today, we're giving you the first overall pick here. And I know it's probably consensus, so I'm going to ask this. If this was Superflex, is the pick still the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's Jeremiyah Love in any format, all formats. Honestly, we run at South Harmon the warp tool, and that kind of factors in different levels and layers of scoring. I mean, even if the warp shows that it's really heavy towards wide receivers and QBs, I mean, outside of something completely egregious in scoring and rare, there shouldn't even be a consideration for anyone else besides Jeremiyah Love, in my opinion, especially after what he did at the Combine. I think it just solidified the athlete and all the upside and the traits that he has. So it didn't really move the needle for me. It was kind of what it's crazy to say, expected out of him. But no, there shouldn't really be a discussion in my personal estimation at this point.
And Derek, when it comes to your overall dynasty rankings with Jeremiyah Love, is he above someone like Ashton Genty, or would he kind of fall right after? That's kind of what I've seen when looking at the Fantasy Pros Dynasty trade value chart, when I'm kind of just looking at Keep Trade Cut and a couple of those other resources across the web as well.
I've got Love right ahead of Genty at RB3 and RB4 in Dynasty. But the thing, and I've had people ask me about this, and I've seen the talking point out on social media, dude, it's okay to like both. It's cool to like both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to me, I think both these guys are elite talents, and I think they should be treated as such. I'm not bumping Genty down just because of the rookie season that he had. I think he's going to come out with like gangbusters and just have a wonderful sophomore year. So pick your flavor. Toss both of them into a hat, and whichever name you pull first, all good with me.
Just like Adam's wing preference, flats and drums. You got a little of both there. And Debro, go ahead with the 102 now. It feels like coming into the process, there wasn't as much of a consensus at the top of the pass catcher board. Now it feels like we definitely do have a consensus, though.
And there should be a consensus. Carnell Tate is my runaway wide receiver 1. He's not making past the second pick for me. I think he is in a tier, to me, he is in a tier all by himself. Like, it's Carnell Tate, and then it's everybody else in this class. And people could hate that take. I really don't care. I don't care about his 4.5 40. I don't care about any of the shade that people want to throw. Oh, he wasn't the number one pass catcher on his own passing offense. Like, get out of here with all the BS narratives. Like, we played the he's too slow game with Tedero McMillan. Had that work out. We played it with Drake London. How did that work out? It just, I mean, dude, he's awesome. His game is so incredibly well-rounded. I don't even know if it's arguably, he's the best route runner in this class. You look at even from an analytics per route perspective, he was 10th in yards per route run, almost a freaking 70% contested catch rate in college. I mean, he's a wide receiver 1. Airdrop him into wherever you want to in the first round. I think he's a top 10 pick. Carnell Tate, easy selection for me here.
Adam, it's interesting about Tate because he definitely showed a lot of promise this past season and in 2024, and that's working with quarterbacks like Will Howard and then really a first-time starter here in 2025 with Julian Sayin. So do you also have Tate as your second overall player in your dynasty rankings when it comes to a one-quarterback league?
I do. I will say I do have him in a tier with Tyson, but Tate's my one. And here's what I'll say about it, especially in this class as we start to go further through the ranks. There's not a lot of crazy high upside, I don't think, as far as depth and numbers in this class. And Tate, to me, I think he has the traits to be someone that you can use in the slot outside. He has some absolutely unreal contested catch ability. And one of the things I just want to keep going back to, and it's not, I don't really want to scout the helmet per se, right? But I do want to go through and talk about a guy like that whose his pedigree's been unbelievable from day one, 5-star guy. You're expected to wait in line, right? You're expected to have your time come at Ohio State. But that's part of what comes with being at a place that just produces, honestly, at this point, the longest list and the best receivers in the game. They're not saying LSU doesn't have some, but you think about Igbuka last year, at least for me. When he went to Tampa Bay, I felt like I was on an island of, I actually love this. If people are going to push his draft stock down, And you saw how he came out of the gates and firing. Now, we didn't know Evans was going to be, hurt right away and all the different things that were going to happen. But I think he's pro ready. He's ready to go now. And I do think as far as like upside goes, if I was to talk about Tyson, Lemon, and Tate carries the highest upside. And I think it's a decent margin. And that's going to be why I have him at 1.
Okay. At the 103, I will take Jordyn Tyson, then wide receiver out of Arizona State. And if you had told me a year ago that I could get Tyson at the 103 in a single quarterback rookie draft, I don't know if I would have really believed you, because this guy, to me, I think he can be a true alpha at the next level, really excels in creating separation, coming down with the ball in those contested catch situations. To me, my comp has been put George Pickens' catch radius met with Jordan Addison's elusiveness and route running, and that's what you get for Jordyn Tyson here. Went for over 1,200 receiving yards, 10 total touchdowns as a junior in 2024 before suffering that collarbone injury. Comes back this past season, and he even had to deal with Sam Levitt's injury and then the Jeff Sims experience for half this past season, and still was on pace for career highs in receptions, touchdowns before being shut down due to his own injury. So honestly, if it wasn't the injuries, the hammy this year, the collarbone the year before, that ACL, MCL, PCL tear back in 2022, I think he would be my wide receiver 1 in this class, but I'm very thrilled overall, Derek, to get him here at 3rd overall.
Yeah, I'm still peek behind the curtain. I'm actually going back through Tyson's film. I went through it once. I gave myself some time to kind of simmer on it, and I'm actually going back through his film right now. Mm-hmm. I am kind of on the fence on Tyson, where I'm going to fall with him. I see the incredible upside, and he has the talent, the raw talent, to come out of this class and be the wide receiver 1 of this class. What I'm struggling with is I think he also has a lot of growth, at least at this point. And again, I'm halfway through going back through the film again. I think he's got a lot of growth that needs to happen as a route runner and a separator, both with his release package and at the top of his stems. I think there was a lot of growth that happened from 24 to 25. But again, I'm halfway through the film in 25 again. I've got some questions about that. And that's where the separation for me versus Tate and Tyson is that I don't have any of those questions with Tate, at all.
I was going to ask you, D-Bro, actually, for Tate, real quick. Do you have any question marks or things you're wanting him to improve on that are a little bit worrisome at all at this point?
I mean, I think there's some parts of his game that I think like he's not the best yak producer and stuff like that, but he can produce yak. He's not the most physical guy after the catch, but yeah. To me, if you can separate at all 3 levels of the field and stuff, it's kind of like we're splitting hairs. Not every single player is an A+++ in every part of their game. Yeah. I would say for Tate, it comes down to the yak and then kind of splitting hairs on how high you think some of his skill set is in some areas. But for me, I think he's the most well-rounded and pro-ready guy, we were all kind of talking about here.
I agree with you still. The only thing for Tate with me, I was just going to put this out there, was that I do want to see him get better with a lot of his press release. I think sometimes I saw him get jammed up a little too much on press. But
yeah, that's a good call. That's a really good call. But he cooks zone, and I'm with you. Going back to my write-up that's live on the site right now for him, I agree with you emphatically. He does let corners get into his body a little bit too easy at times.
Yeah, and I think the one positive, I think he has the frame and is going to get coached up very well on that. I think it's something that can be learned and traded. When you get to Tyson, I agree with you. I think he's has an elite upside, but I do think there are some I don't know, at the level of play especially, I'm a little concerned on some of the release packages. I agree completely.
Yeah, Big 12 corners, not the best usually that he's playing against. So that certainly doesn't help projecting him any. Adam, you had 3 wide receivers kind of in this top tier here. Are you going with a 3rd one at pick 104?
Yeah. One of the nice things about having the 101 given to me by these guys so kindly was obviously Jeremiyah Love. Let's just not get that out of the way. But honestly, if you had in this rotation here where we're going, 1, 4, every 3rd pick, I should say, Lemon is easy for me here. The 104 is one of those at this point, especially in one quarterback like this. This is quite a bit of a tier break for me personally. I got Makai Lemon at I would have him at this 4 spot for the record. This is how my rankings go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. But what it would cost for me if I had this 4th pick, let's say, to go down even to 5 or 6 or anything, it would cost a premium, because I do believe this is kind of a tier break for the guys that have closer to that really elite upside.
Okay. And Any concern, Adam, about kind of the stink at the combine over some of the demeanor that he had at the podium while talking to the press?
No, I'm not. No, not really. I do find it kind of entertaining, but
It was good. It was good.
I don't have any like real. Doesn't give me any concern or give me any pause for a player like him. I do think his game to me. Part of the reason I have him at 4 versus 2, right? Let's say for these receivers, the 1, 2, and 3 spot. He worked primarily out of the slot, and I'm not saying that he can't go out wide, but I do think that the team that's going to draft him is going to have to find a way to put him advantageously early on in his career into the slot, and I don't know if that's going to really affect his draft capital and what teams think of him. And ultimately, if I'm going to use tiebreakers, that definitely is going to come down to one of the things. You just think about the way the Dynasty community is, and we want guys that have the profile. We want guys that can play not just in the slot. So that's going to be one of the primary reasons why I would keep him down here. And honestly, he's probably potentially going to be out of the tier that I have Tate and Tyson.
Okay. Derek Brown, speaking of dropping down a tier, let's go down one tier in most people's rankings for your 105 pick, please.
I want to be very clear. The wide receiver I'm about to take right here is not down a tier for me.
Ooh,
I
love it.
I have not finalized my rankings, but I will say this right now. I'm probably going to have Casey Concepcion ranked ahead of Makai Lemon. And I know that's going to be converse to a lot of people. But I'm going to kind of dive through that. He's an easy pick for me here. And I think anybody sitting with like the middle round or later round, like, with a late first or like the 107, basically anywhere from the 106 to 108 range in like a super flex format, or right at this pick in a 1 QB format, should absolutely be staring at Casey Concepcion. Like, the tiebreaker for me between Concepcion and Lemon is kind of goes right back to what Adam just talked about, and Lemon being a slot player. And my worries about Lemon, not to shade him and stuff, but when we're getting into these top 4, top 5 wide receivers, I think there is a clear top 5.
Okay.
These top 5 wide receivers, it is in this new, I'm saying this new version of the NFL, but we all know that the NFL is not this league that is utilizing 11 personnel at 80 and 90% of their snaps anymore. They're just not. So the top end teams in the NFL, you're looking at that rate right now is at 66, 70, maybe 70% right now. So if a guy is slot confined and he can't play on the outside, and I've got a lot of questions about Makai Lemon. Like, I love the on paper analytical profile. I like the dog that he has in him.
Definitely.
I worry about two specific things with him. Can he play the outside? I feel like the Amon-Ra St. Brown comps are very aggressive right now. I don't put him in the same.
That's as high end as it gets for a guy.
I don't put him in the same column as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'll be very, very clear about that. I think my comp has been and remains for him Jarvis Landry. And I don't think, like, if anybody gets that type of production out of him, that's not a bad thing for Makai Lemon. But again, going back to Jarvis Landry and the production profile and stuff, he was cooking corners and amassing all these receptions in a world where the NFL was utilizing 11 personnel at 80 and 90% of their snaps. That's not the world that we're living in now. So if Lemon is not going to be a guy like that is running 80 to 90% of routes per dropback on a week, it's going to hurt him. And just look at all these other guys that play the slot, like just Josh Downs this last year.
Jaden Reed is a guy that comes to mind for me.
Yes.
Where
it's like the talent's good.
You see the upside when he plays well, and he has, but when you're in an offense like that, it's funny you brought up the percentage. He's basically kind of confined to that 70% top end of snaps always. And
it caps him.
And what's crazy is he's been a perfect example. I'll speak to this real quickly, where there's been so many other guys in that offense that have gotten hurt or have, underperformed. And what do? They constantly keep using him in the slot. They don't put him out wide. So that's a very good good quality, bro. I'd like to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's not that I dislike Makai Lemon. It's just when we're splitting hairs with prospects here, I have no questions or qualms or any concerns about Casey Concepcion playing inside and outside. I think if a team wants to draft him and play him 80% on the out wide and then roll him into the slot versus certain corners, fine. I think his route running is better than Makai Lemon's. Now, we can argue about, after catch ability and broken tackles and all that other kind of stuff. But from a route running perspective and a skill set perspective, I have no qualms or questions about Casey Concepcion. I think he's a top 3 wide receiver in this class. I mean, again, you're telling me a player that had a 12.28 out last year and he's still ranked 26th in yak per reception. That's impressive, man, because when you get some of that more downfield usage, you're not breaking tackles and producing as many yards after the catch. And then the last point I'll make here is if he would have had a better quarterback last year, Marcel Reed is not good. If he would have had a better quarterback last year, his numbers would have been even better.
That's definitely fair to say. Let me ask you this, because my hesitation on part of why I have the tier break at the moment is not knowing, what's coming in the NFL draft. And from what I've seen, for the most part, it seems a lot more, like it's consensus, so to speak, that Lemon looks like a top 20-ish pick at, being conservative. And Concepcion, sometimes I've seen missing the first round. So what do you think about? Do you think Concepcion's done enough at this point to get himself into first-round draft capital? Because honestly, that's part of the reason for me at this current moment with the info we have that I have it split where he's out of the top tier for me.
I think he's going round 1. I think I in my most recent mock, which thank you the Rams and the Chiefs, they blew that up with a recent trade. But my most recent mock that went live on Monday, I have Concepcion going to the Browns at 24. I honestly think we could be surprised once we get to pro days and Casey Concepcion, because I think there's a realm where we could be living in and he runs in the 4.3s. So if he runs a high 4.3 at his pro day and he does any other kind of testing, I think he's going to go higher in the NFL draft than other people are expecting right now. I think he's probably going to go ahead of
Denzel. You got him after this pro day, kind of rising himself into solidified first round territory. Makes sense.
I mean, I think he's locked into the first round. To me, it's not a question if he goes in the first round. It's a question of where.
Got it. Okay.
Buffalo. That's where I had in my latest mock draft that dropped over the weekend. Would be
a fantastic landing spot.
That would be so spicy because
beautiful.
One thing we know about the Dynasty community is the Chiefs, the Bills, these types of landing spots. It just freaking propels these guys. Sports.
So at the 106, folks, I'm going to make a pick that's going to be pretty super controversial, I think, actually. And I'm standing on business here. I think Elijah Sarratt out of Indiana is the wide receiver 4 in this class. And if you want a player who is pro ready, who I think is going to make a huge impact from day one, it's Sarratt to me. We've seen it at different levels, whether that was in the G5, where he's second in the Sun Belt in receiving yards, nearly 1,200 yards as a sophomore, then goes up to the Big Ten, higher level of competition, and still finishes 6th in the conference in receiving yards in 2024 with almost 1,000. Was banged up during the middle of this season, but still led the country in receiving touchdowns. There was a streak where when this guy was on the field, he was catching a touchdown almost every single week. And for me, I just love the snap of this guy's routes, especially when he's attacking the football on curls. I think especially he's a monster when it comes to the run blocking, and he has all the intangibles too. He's been coached by a hard-nosed Western Pennsylvania guy in Curt Cignetti for the past 3 seasons, comes out of St. Francis University, 0-star prospect. So that's really what's going against him here, that and that he's not the most athletic guy compared to some of these other prospects, and he might not garner first-round draft capital, but I think if he's on the board in the early second round, a team like the Raiders might want to pair him with Fernando. I think he won't get past pick 40 or so. So to me, I'm going to go ahead and take a shot on a guy that I think when we get a month into the NFL season, a lot of dynasty managers are going to regret not taking him here at the 106. Adam, you're up with the 107. Any thoughts, though, on Sarratt first as well?
Listen, I like Sarratt. I will tell you, though, he's 2 spots behind the guy that I took here, Denzel Boston at 107. And I really like Denzel Boston. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. D-Bro's with me, so I already feel a little better about my analysis. But to me, man, Denzel Boston, if you're going to have in this class a pick that's not, let's say, this top 5 or 6, because I got Boston here at 7, right? And I think in a super flex league, obviously you'll put Mendoza probably goes ahead of him. So you're talking 7, 8, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. It's one of those guys where, yes, I would like to have, Lemon or Tyson or Tate for sure. But if you're not, I think he's kind of the middle ground tweener where it's meaning his value and the player that I'm getting still, I feel great about, right? So if I lost in the first round of the playoffs and I think I have a really good team, Boston's a spot where I think you can actually get him and add him to a good team where he's going to have potential to come out of the gates giving you pro production early. I love a lot of his game. He's got a unbelievable size if you haven't got a chance to watch him. 6'4", 230. I mean, the guy can move too. He's not just a big body. I'm really excited for him. In this class, I don't get super excited as we continue to go on, but Denzel Boston is kind of towards the end of the tier for me where it's like, okay, I get it. I know I'm getting a stud here.
Yeah. And he's another guy. He started last season in 2024 with Will Rogers. And this year we had the young quarterback just not really take in Damon Williams that next step that I think a lot of us were thinking he was going to. And still Denzel Boston just showed up. Derek, where are you going with 108 now that a guy you like in Denzel Boston is off the board?
Dude, I felt so sniped when Adam took him off the board. I was hoping that he was going to go with the guy that I took here. And I'm not disappointed to draft the guy that I'm drafting here, but I absolutely love Denzel Boston for all the points that Adam make. I think his route running is underrated. People would knock him for his speed. I don't freaking care about any of that. Like, again, kind of the same point I made with Concepcion. If Boston would have had good quarterback play, his numbers would have been bonkers this year. Would have been way better.
Fully agree. Fully agree.
Yeah. For me, I feel like this is a spot whether you're in 1 QB and normal scoring or you're in tight end premium kind of stuff. Like Kenyon Sadiq can't fall past here.
No.
Just considering everything he did at the freaking combine. Seth, I know that we differ on this, but Kenyon Sadiq is my runaway tight end 1 in this class, and this is no shade to the guy that it's at tight end 2. But Kenyon Sadiq, I think, like, again, talking about where we have concerns about certain players to be every down players, and you have to play snaps and you have to play routes and stuff like that. That's going to impact your floor and ceiling, a la Dalton Kincaid. I have no questions about any of that with Kenyon Sadiq. So you pair his blocking ability, his 3-down ability, his route running, his ridiculously stupid athletic upside. Like, dude, I thought he was fast, but there was not a ton of spots on film where Oregon sent him up the seam and you really saw him just open it up and put the pedal to the metal. So, like, I didn't know he was going to have 4.39 freaking speed.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, dude, like he could go top 10, top 12 in the NFL draft and nobody should be surprised at all. So love getting Kenyon Sadiq at this spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this is where, so when we were doing this, right, this was, we started this pre-combine and then we finished it as the combine was already finished, post-combine essentially. So I will say this, for me, the way that I play in most leagues, I don't necessarily care about the tight end production, and I don't think it a lot of times ends up mattering for me to win a title. That said, Sadiq is one of these, it's going to be a problem for me to even figure out how I'm going to navigate it, because 4.39 with the profile he has, he's going to skyrocket. He's going to go extremely high. And the other crazy part is, while I may not agree with where he's going to go, he doesn't have to do a ton, as we've seen other rookie tight ends. He doesn't have to do a ton in his rookie season for his value to actually increase from there.
Right.
So it's kind of this conundrum where I don't necessarily want to lock into, you know, a top 5 or a better pick on a guy like this because it's a tight end. But it's one of those where, like, you know, there's rocket ship attached to it as far as dynasty value and people wanting to get a really good player in a position that's, you know, not that deep. So I'm probably going to end up getting some shares of him that I know I'm reaching for him a little bit with the idea of hoping to, you know, move on from him later. Because I do think he's going to show with that speed and all that stuff he has, his traits are going to allow him to have some really big highlight plays in his rookie season. And that ultimately is what really moves the needle for the dynasty gamer, I think, as far as trade values go, stuff like that.
Well, and there's like a few fever dream landing spots where you could see in your mind's eye of him having like a Sam Laporta or Brock Bowers type of like rookie season. It's like if Kelsey doesn't come back and Casey takes him at 9, if the Eagles move on from AJ Brown and they let Dallas Goedert walk and he's the number 2 for the Philly passing attack, like,
that'd be crazy.
These aren't hard things to imagine. So it's like, if he goes to one of those spots, like, it could be absolute wheels up and he walks into 100 targets and you're just like, yeah, all right, well, top 5, top 3 dynasty tight end. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. I mean, and he's already going to be probably top 5, even without the landing spot. So you talk about that where it's like, man, you could see him really starting to go high. His RAS checks almost every single box once the combine was over. So, I mean, it's weird because, you know, again, I think he's going to go higher than I would really feel comfortable with him. But if you want to get him, it's probably going to need to be in the rookie draft because afterwards it's going to cost you a lot more, I believe.
We could be in a world where after his rookie season, and I know I'm getting way ahead of us, like playing out that entire year, but like if he does end up with one of those landing spots, we could all be living in a world where it's like, who do you want in Dynasty moving forward? Kenyon, Sadiq, or Tyler Warren?
Yeah.
And the answer could be Sadiq.
Oh, very easily, right? Especially with knowing what the Colts situation is going to be. I mean, absolutely.
I know I'm triggering Seth right now because
production-
he's a Tyler Warren lover. So,
Oh, sorry, Seth. Well, and let me help you out, Debro, too, for that. Like Tyler Warren's production really started to struggle as well. Daniel Jones started to struggle, and then he got hurt. It was basically like, you had a lot of name cachet in your dynasty value, but you didn't have the production to go with it. So I still think he's a good tight end and going to be highly valued, but you could totally see Sadiq passing him. I mean, you see what like Harold Fannin did this year. I could see something like that, maybe even plus in a good landing spot.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was super surprised by the time for Sadiq, just because I feel like a lot of times we saw Johnson going down the seam for Oregon out of the tight end spot, and it was Sadiq kind of more running these out routes. So very impressed by him, and it's really having me take a long look in the mirror because I actually had Eli Stowers, tight end out of Vanderbilt, over him going into the combine. And I'm going to take him at the 109. The biggest red flag right off the rip, though, we can't bury the lead here. This guy is a tweener, right? 6'4", 239 pounds. Is he Dalton Kincaid? Could he potentially only be playing half the snaps when he gets on an NFL field? I'm willing to take the gamble at the back half of the first, though, that he can put on some more muscle. He can improve as a blocker once he gets in with NFL coaches in a facility. And still, there's 2025 John Mackey Award winner, right? Finished 6th in the SEC in receptions with 62, had almost 800 yards, 4 touchdowns this past season. And what I love about this guy is he kind of reminds me of Tyler Warren, right? He can line out wide, in line, in the backfield. And super high IQ guy too, former high school quarterback, converted in college. And unlike Warren or Sadiq, this guy has multiple years of elite production at a top level SEC school. So for me, like, I'm going to smash his draft position under when it drops out there at the sports books. And I'm going to continue to smash him in the back half of the first round of Dynasty rookie drafts. Adam, I haven't heard your opinion on Stowers yet. Is he someone you're a little bit sour on because of the size?
I won't necessarily say the size as a whole, right? I mean, if we just said, okay, all things removed, and we just went size, pound for pound, I mean, he's 2 pounds different than Sadiq, right? And almost the same height. So like, I'll say this from the size perspective alone, no, but I do think I have a little more questions on his overall game as a true tight end, which then makes the tweener conversation a lot more of a problem. And we've seen this with Raz and guys that look really great where, oh man, there's nothing, but you think about if they can't use him in line, or depending on what kind of a situation he goes into and how they do want to deploy him, is he going to be a tweener? I think there's definitely concerns there, but I will say this, once we get to this point where I think now that Sadiq was out of the way, right? We're much more into a point at this spot where you're not going to get the same level of guaranteed production. You're not going to get the same level of guaranteed prospect profile, all those things. So I think if you're going to shoot a shot on a player like this, you saw Sadiq's a freak, right? He jumped two inches higher than him on the vertical. I mean, I'm like, this guy how's he not playing basketball? This guy's a freak. So he has a lot of the traits I do think that still can translate to a very good tight end for fantasy. And he has all the traits that you want in a dynasty tight end. I am a little concerned, but I think the concerns are going to continue to pile up and get longer list of concerns as we continue to go down this draft. So I don't hate the position of drafting him back into the first here, honestly.
Where are you going here, Adam, at the 110? It's been just a bevy of wide receivers and tight ends off the board since your first pick.
Yeah. So at this point, right, it's kind of funny. I was this is not actually, but in a scenario, let's just play this out, right? Let's say I know I have 10 and I know I have 13 like I did here. If I was actually on the clock doing this, I was kind of playing the field and seeing, all right, I don't really think with the running back depth in this class, I was like, I don't think Price is going to make it to me at 13. Like, I just don't see that scenario.
Sure.
And I really like Cooper. I really do like Omar Cooper. But I'm like, you know what? I think there's a better chance. Now, there was obviously 2 picks in front of me, and either one of you could have taken Cooper. And that's not to say that you don't love what your pick was, but I think that's one of the things, especially down here in this class, sequencing is a big thing to note, right? And for me, I think Jadarian Price with the running back situation, this running back field is not very deep. Debro and I were talking about it. I think I have 6 and he has 5 that we even really truly care about it, honestly, at this point in the process. So for me, it was more about, okay, if I want to get a running back that I do still believe in the profile and like the traits, I think this is my place to get it. And Jadarian Price for me is the running back 2 in my ranking. So that's what I went with there.
Yeah, a guy who certainly carried Notre Dame in 2024 when we actually saw Jeremiyah Love pretty banged up, and they went all the way to the national championship game and flashed in opportunities when he had it this past season as well. Derek, where are you going at the 111?
I mean, I don't care if that it's one quarterback. I still think that quarterbacks carry enough of a value, and especially with this like ever-changing, like, because we have to talk about what the quarterback landscape looks like in the NFL right now. And even in a one quarterback format, like all these different guys are changing hands. A lot of these quarterbacks are aging and their values dropping. And basically like Tua, Kyler, Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, like the list just goes on and on of guys like their value has been nuked, or it's like, what are you getting out of them past maybe this upcoming season? And so for me, it's like, even in a one quarterback format, I'm only going to let Fernando Mendoza fall so far.
Yeah.
So I'm taking him at the 111, man. And like, I can make a case. I think the case for Mendoza starts at 109 in a one quarterback format. Like right where you get past Kenyon, Sadiq, and we're all starting to like, make plays for upside or getting our guys or playing the board and what draft capital could look like. At that point, that's the Mendoza line. Pun intended.
I like that. That was nice delivery. Well done.
Yeah, I think
I have moments far and few between.
It feels safe. It feels safe to me, right? Like this guy loves football more than anything. He's not on social medias other than LinkedIn. I mean, he's just locked into football all the time. And I think when you have a guy like Kubiak coming over to take the reins of this offense and operation as a whole, it just creates a really nice upside to kind of match that floor. And in a year and just landscape in the NFL where we're seeing so many veteran quarterbacks discarded, whether that's Kyler Murray, Tua, I think there's always some just brilliance in having a guy who's going to be on a 5-year contract and is going to have a long window and runway in the NFL. So at the 111, Derek goes Fernando Mendoza. I'm going to go Jonah Coleman out of Washington here at the 112. Didn't love that he didn't test at the combine other than the bench press. Like, to me, that was a huge miss for him. But I still think he's in the conversation for RB2 because follows up a really nice 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season at Washington in 2024 with another 750 yards, 17 combined touchdowns, first in the Big Ten in 2025, and then flash a ton in the pass game too, right? Like set career highs in receptions, 31, receiving yards, 350 plus. And like, to me, yes, this guy had a successful career as an underclassman at Arizona and then goes on. So he has the production. And I know everyone's big concern with him is the size, but like Ray Rice was a thing, right? At 5'8", 220, kind of similar lower center of gravity. And a lot of times with that lower center of gravity comes some really strong vision. So I think that's kind of what I like from Jonah Coleman. And I just don't see a ton of backs in this class that have 3-down skill set. And while he's still smaller a little bit, at least from a height perspective, I think he is absolutely going to see some passing game work and could be a first and second down running back. And I think he still slides into day 2 of the NFL draft. So, Adam, any thoughts here on the picks of Fernando and Coleman before we close out the first round?
No, I mean, I think my thoughts are for Mendoza. Admittedly, I don't play in a lot of 1 QB, but if in this scenario, right, you're in the back end of the first round, I think in that format, right, the tradability for quarterbacks across isn't going to be high. However, let's say I'm in this scenario where I almost won a title, or I'm at the 111, right, and I don't have a very good quarterback situation. I don't have any problem at all saying, I'm going to go ahead and get Mendoza here to try to shore up if you got by with Rodgers or whatever the situation would be, right? I think dependent on your team, I would have zero issue with that if you needed a quarterback there. And I think for Coleman, he's kind of in this tier for me. I have actually 4 running backs that you kind of hit it where I wish he would have run at the combine because I really would have liked to see what his metrics were, but I don't have a problem with it. I will say after the combine, post combine, he would have gone for me, Mike Washington Jr., who Debro gets to in a couple picks. I took Omar Cooper. If we were changing things today, Mike Washington would have definitely gone up because what he did at the combine, I knew he was athletic and I knew he was explosive, but goodness, man, I did not quite. Sorry, I was not that familiar with your game. He exploded in the combine.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to ask you too, Seth. Like, in being just keeping it transparent with this thought exercise, like we started this before the combine. We were, I think when running backs and all the skill guys were testing, we were somewhere at the middle or the back end of the second round.
Yeah.
So like, if you could do this all over, would you still take Coleman, or would you take Mike Washington, or would you go in a different direction knowing what we know now, or what we don't know now because Coleman didn't test?
Before there was a bigger gap, I'm still going Coleman over Washington, but the gap is smaller just because of the complete process here for Coleman. Like seeing what he's done at Washington the past couple of seasons, especially when they didn't have a good quarterback, and Jed Fish kind of just getting his feet under him as a head coach too. Like I really like the stability that Coleman brought. So the gap is smaller though. The gap is certainly smaller, and I think I said this earlier this week on one of our shows, Derek, that like RB2 to RB6 to me, very interchangeable, very fluid, and landing spot and draft capital will matter a ton. Let's go ahead though and move into the second round. But before we do that, a real quick reminder that our Dynasty Draft Simulator helps you complete a mock draft in minutes with no waiting between picks. You can customize your league settings to match your league's exact format. Premium subscribers can test trade scenarios by mocking their traded draft picks, prepare for rookie drafts and Dynasty startup drafts all in one place. Use the Dynasty Draft Simulator to dominate your rookie draft today at fantasypros.com/simulator. And we're on to the second round. We're going to speed things up as we get into the back half of the draft here. But Adam, I got to give you the floor with this first pick of the second round, 13 overall. You're going with one of my other favorite players coming out of IU.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as I was telling you, like, I would probably have taken Mike Washington now after the combine. But I will say it's not like something I'm like terribly regretting, or like it's massively switched now, because I still like Omar Cooper quite a bit. And he did honestly pretty well in the combine in his own right. Yep. He just didn't quite, I think, make that next big leap and jump as far as moving tiers. He kind of did what I was expecting him to. And so, again, it would just come down to sequencing, where there are a couple wide receivers after Cooper that I still like, although the list starts to get pretty thin. After Mike Washington here, who I did not select, who Debro took, it really gets to be very thin. So that would really be the only thing I would change. But Omar Cooper, to me, at this point, like the one thing is, for this draft being as shallow as it is, if you're in the top of the round two, to get a guy like Omar Cooper honestly isn't that bad. I think the cliff isn't quite as soon as everybody thinks it is in the 26 class, as far as like the value falling completely off of a cliff. I do think it's coming here in round two, but I think at the moment, late first, early second, maybe they're not the prospect that you're used to getting in 24 or even last year's class. But I do think you're still getting talented players, and Omar Cooper to me is one of them. He can do a lot of different things.
Well, and that could look totally different if Cooper makes it into the first round, like he's getting in some mocks too. If he goes first round and we get 6 wide receivers going in the first round, then people are going to push him up, and again, they're going to feel a little bit better about this class than maybe they do right now.
And that's the other thing too. With what I have at the moment, right? If you tell me that in a few months here that Mike Washington ends up falling out of day 2 and Omar Cooper went round 1, and we're not even having a conversation, right? So there's still a lot. There's still a lot of things that got to go into play here. I do think this, at least I'll say about Cooper, I feel pretty confident that he's going to end up being a top 50 pick at worst. And for me, that's kind of the threshold where it's like, if you're in round 1, obviously it's arrows up, but if you're, let's say, in the 40s, you're inside that top 50, that's the draft capital I'm looking for in Dynasty to really solidify, okay, the NFL told me what they think about you. They really like you.
Yep. That's kind of the Lad McConkey or, someone kind of in that range territory of draft capital that you still really like to see. And Omar Cooper Jr., as you said, just a guy who really in his early career was someone who showed more as a deep threat, but then this past season just became a really, really complete player, to the point where Charlie Becker was really the deep threat for IU, and they're using Cooper a lot more underneath. So I love to see that versatility from him. And Derek, we've said his name about 500 times already, so go ahead and give us your 202, please.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and, do the boring thing, I guess, right now. Mike Washington Jr., running back out of Arkansas. Come on down, man. We have talked glowingly about him since the freaking Senior Bowl on this show, and we'll continue to do so. I said before the combine, he was the most underrated running back in this entire freaking class. Stand on that, 10 toes down. Now you see the testing. He's a mutant. I think he probably goes in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. I would be surprised if he goes round 2, but Man, we see the NFL estimate and double count speed and testing and all this kind of stuff. And if you were to tell me a team falls in love with him in a shallow running back class and says, we're not going to play chicken in the third round, and they take him at the back end of the second round, I honestly wouldn't be surprised either. It depends on where he falls on teams' boards and what they think about this draft class for running backs. Some teams might stack this up and say, it's Jeremiah Love and Mike Washington or bust. They might not like any of these other running backs. That's a possibility because every one of these running backs past Love has questions and stuff. And the mutant type of testing might put Washington in a tier above all these other guys.
There.
I'm not saying that that's definitive, but that might be the case for some NFL teams in the way they're stacking their boards.
Absolutely. I mean, and you got to think about it, right? If you're not familiar, the guy's 223, right? Ran a 4.33 at the combine. I was going to ask you, D-Bro, I know you were high on him going into this. Did you expect him to quite show out like this? Like, did you expect freak athlete out of the guy? Because this is the thing for me. I liked his game, but I did not expect him to explode in the combine to this level of athlete, frankly.
I thought he was going to test extremely well. I didn't see 4.33 coming. I did not see that coming. I thought he was going to run a mid to low, depending on, because the other part about this is not all these guys
have track 4.4s though, right?
Yes, I was going to say, like, okay. I thought he was going to run in the mid to low 4.4s, depending on how much he's been training for that, because not all these guys have track backgrounds. Not all these guys run the 40 and stuff well. It just happens.
To give context at the running back position, that's essentially what 188-pound Devon Achane ran, right? 4.32 is what Achane ran.
Yeah.
So understand 4.33 is essentially on the highest end that you'll see of any running back, period. And almost all of them are sub 200, frankly.
Yep.
So you're talking about a guy that I think, I'll say this, I agree with probably where he's going to land. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go round 2 just because those type of traits, you can't teach that. You can teach a lot of things. You just cannot teach someone that's going to be that explosive. So I do think he's probably going to be more like a round 3 guy. But if he was a round 2 guy personally for me, I think you got to probably take him in this class back end of round 1, honestly.
I don't disagree. Like, I think like the conversation, depending on where he gets drafted in the landing spot, the conversation for Mike Washington Jr. starts at the 109 for me. Yeah, I mean, he's in the conversation with Price and Stowers and where we were with those guys. Like,
we're
if he gets that type of draft capital,
right here. I agree there for sure.
Yes, sir.
Well, maybe a tier break then comes at 203, but I'm going to stick with my theme of running backs with great vision and patience and take Kaytron Allen out of Penn State off the board here. Former 4-star recruit, very much the change of pace running back at Penn State, really until halfway through this past season, but still managed to set that Penn State record for most all-time rushing yards, which, we've had so many good running backs up here in Happy Valley, whether it's Saquon, Miles Sanders, Evan Royster going back in the day, right? And for him to have that school record is just astounding. And then the fact that he lost Drew Aller at this juncture this year where James Franklin got fired and still averaged 6.2 yards per carry, was still super efficient, even with the volume increase for 1,300 total yards, earns that all Big Ten honors as well. Like, I'm just really excited about a guy who maybe he's not a premier athlete, but he's a great north-south type of running back who, when you just need yards, when you just need to move the chains, he's your type of guy. Like, even if the pass catching isn't there at the next level, I think he's still very much like a Zach Charbonnet type of player where you could get the goal line job early, have 5 to 7 touchdowns as a rookie. And I would love to see him maybe potentially in Detroit to replace David Montgomery in that role. So Adam, go ahead with the 204 now, if you would, please.
Yeah. So for me at the 204, I will say one thing real quickly on the Allen. And I think to give him credit, his flowers, so to speak, I mean, this is also, he did that alongside the entire time what was the number 1 overall running back in that class, in Nick Singleton, right? And so listen, the politics in college, honestly, are no joke either. And so to do that, I think we really should not, that shouldn't be dismissed and underlooked, honestly. I'll say for me, the next pick was Malachi Fields. I still do like Malachi Fields, but I will say I was hoping to see a little more at the combine, frankly. So he arrow slightly down, but he didn't. One thing I want to say is you don't want to double count either way, right? So I didn't expect him to be this crazy freak athlete or super, super fast. So it's not like a big time knock, but it definitely, when I'm splitting hairs in this part of the draft, For me, him and Omar Cooper were probably closer to similar going into the combine. And I think at this point, I will move Omar Cooper into a tier ahead of Malachi Fields, personally for me. So I don't mind him in this range, but honestly, I wouldn't hate if you wanted to take him, a Brazel ahead of him, Ted Hurst ahead of him. There's other receivers, I think, at this point in my process that I would put ahead of him, knowing what I know today.
Yeah, it's just tough for someone like Fields where it seemed like a lot of his production came this year. I don't want to say by circumstance, but you had no Jane Greathouse for half the year. You had just injuries kind of piling up on that Notre Dame pass catching core where Malachi Fields was really kind of able to be unleashed late in the season. So, and it's tough to get past, for me, the lack of production for his career and then also not being a freak athlete. Derek, kind of a similar story, but someone who has a ton of production, maybe just not a freak athlete coming here at the 205 for you.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're talking about this and being transparent. We started this mock before the combine and continued it through it. So with our picks of Fields and my guy right here, Emmett Johnson, running back out of Nebraska, it comes down to what do teams think about him in the draft capital and where does he land? And for me, like, people are going to crush him by the combine, and if you thought he was running a 4.4 or he was going to turn in just this immense combine, you didn't watch his film, and you honestly aren't familiar with his game.
That point, I think, is it. I think Emmett Johnson's going to have this very split, polarizing.
A 4.5 was good for him, dude. Like, that's not a bad time for him. Yeah. Like, if he ran in the mid 4.6s, fine. Let's drop him.
He's 45 to 1 to be the fastest running back. Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be that quick. Yeah,
but a 4.5 40 is not a coffin nail for him. Like, that's not how he wins. He wins with vision. He wins with his lateral agility. And then people are going to say, oh, the 3-cone and stuff like that. Dude, this all puts it into, like, the NFL is going to tell us what they think about him based off the film, based off of his talent and the numbers and stuff like that. I think he's a 3rd-round running back. Now, with all of this, could he drop to the 4th or 5th round? It's possible. The NFL is going to tell us that with draft capital and landing spots. And, when we look back in 2-3 weeks, after the NFL draft, what have you, like, could this be a bad pick right now where we're at? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could this also be a guy that, like, we're also looking in the crystal ball and a year and a half later we're saying, okay, he was the Bucky Irving of this class? That wouldn't shock me either, dude. Wouldn't.
Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, I think, if anything, have shown if you're at this point, right, where it's kind of polarizing, but if you trust the film and that's your guy, I think you just kind of, especially in a class like this at this range, make your bed and lay in it, man. If he ends up being the player that you think and you see on film, you trust that. He has the potential to go significantly higher. And I think that's even with the draft capital potentially being day 3. So that's just the one thing I wanted to say. Obviously, you don't want to use those outliers as, that's why I should do this all the time. But I do think his game is very much similar where it's like, okay, if what you saw on film and what is going to necessarily be there from a, metric standpoint from time, they're not the same thing. And that's not why you were going to draft him anyway, frankly.
No,
absolutely.
I think the other thing that helps him is the fact that he's not a 2-down grinder. He's actually a pass game weapon.
Yes.
And so it's not like we're even discussing a guy like, and no shade, but like Kaytron Allen, where he's like, if he gives you anything in the passing game, like a Blake Corum or Tyler Algier, you're putting your hands up and you're rejoicing.
Yeah.
He's actually good in the passing game too.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair.
Well, and you have someone like Emmett Johnson too. Like, let's not forget the system and just the circumstances he was up against. He had Timu Patrick Mahomes, who very overrated prospect. It seems like throwing him the ball, and then Timu Patrick Mahomes get hurt halfway through the year, and he had absolutely no offense. And he was someone who, when he would hit home runs, he'd get tracked down late. So I'm not surprised by the 40. I think it's a really good value still here at the 205. At the 206, though, I'm going to move forward here with Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson. And in my opinion, I think he's one of the best pure slot wide receivers in this class. Guy that just thrives in traffic, still only 21 years old as well. A guy who bursted onto the scene as a freshman All-American, then took the conference by storm as a junior, led the ACC in receiving touchdowns with 100, with 11, and then also finished 3rd in receptions with 75. Comes back this past year, and why you're getting a discount is because he had that hamstring issue to begin the season. That's also why Clemson's offense was absolutely atrocious out of the gate this season when they were a projected top 5 preseason team. And As soon as he comes back, good things happen. Cade Klubnik this past season, while targeting 125.4 QB rating. So I think if he lands on a team like the Patriots that know how to use slot wide receivers effectively, and they also play him in 2 wide receiver sets, he could be on a Rashee Rice-like trajectory to begin his career. So I really like Antonio Williams. I think he's a value in the middle of the second round. Who do you think's a value at the 207, Adam?
Yeah, so I'll say this, especially here, right? Middle to late part of the second round. I'm at the point where the player I'm drafting, Chris Brazzell, the second here, honestly, I'm shooting for upside now. I know that there is a very good chance if I'm selecting here that I'm going to miss, frankly, or I'm not going to hit somebody that's going to have this crazy high upside. But if I'm in this range and I do end up not trading the pick or whatever, this is the type of player that I would like to draft. I think there's a lot of refinement that he needs, frankly, if I'm being honest about Chris Brazzell's game. I think there's a lot of times where he's really fast but doesn't create separation. I think you don't see a lot of press coverage on him. But what I will say is you don't also get to say, okay, let's take a player pool in the NFL, and let's say 6'4", 200 whatever pounds, roughly, which is what I think he weighed in at 195, something like that, roughly 200 pounds, but he's running a 4.37. And there's potential draft capital that's decent. I think that's going to be a really small list of players. And so Chris Brazzell also has kind of that rocket ship ability where people are going to want to see him, tall and fast. It always looks good for people. And if you see him have some big highlight plays in the NFL, you can see his draft stock not just rise tremendously, but his dynasty value rise like crazy. So I just think that for him, he's on the fence as far as I do like some of the things in his game. I definitely don't think he's a surefire, can't miss prospect. But I think if I'm in this range, he's definitely one of the guys I'm targeting in this range where it's like, okay, if all things do hit, you have the potential to really trade into tiers you have no idea. Basically, all these other guys don't have that type of upside, I think, as far as what the dynasty market will give them.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. And Derek, from one of the biggest, most historic programs in college football, Tennessee, you're taking us to one of the absolute worst, just an absolute dog crap program over the past couple seasons, but they still did produce one of your favorite prospects in this class.
Damn right. Ted Hurst, baby. Let's go. Georgia State. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I freaking love Ted Hurst. I loved him ever since I turned on his film before the Senior Bowl. He's going to be a top 10 wide receiver for me in this class right now. And I've still got a few wide receivers to get through. I don't see anybody that I have left to watch that I have not watched right now that I think is going to jump him in my rankings. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it with my chest. Ted Hurst is my wide receiver 8 of this class. I think he's absolutely freaking fantastic. Wow. He went out there and he tested awesome. I knew that was going to happen. Team's going to turn on the film and they are going to love this kid. And I have him over Chris Brazzell, and I want to be very clear about why I have that. I like Brazzell a lot. I really, really do. He's big. He's fast. It shows up on his film. He's not like every other freaking Tennessee wide receiver that has come out of this Josh Heupel, gimmicky BS system where everybody runs from bunch formations and stack formations and free releases. He actually has route running chops. To me, the differentiating quality between Hurst and Brazzell specifically, and with these two guys going back-to-back in this draft, why I put Hurst above Brazzell doesn't play up to his size and strength, whether it's after the catch, at the catch point, in routes, physicality.
The catch for sure is not his thing, for sure.
It's not. But Hurst does, dude. He has that dog in him. He will not be pushed off his line. He is a dog at the freaking catch point. And I don't care that it was versus lower competition. It shows up on the film. I think it translates, and I love this kid. Really do.
Okay. All right. Ted Hurst is the pick there for Derek. I'm going to go back to the Happy Valley well with Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State here. And to me, it's just like taking a discount on another player that he's only available on the board in getting him this cheap because of injury, right? Like, I'm telling you right now, if Singleton didn't break his foot in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, he'd be having the same conversations around him that we're having about Mike Washington Jr., because this guy is a freak, 5-star recruit, one of the best prospects we've ever landed at Penn State at the running back position, minus Saquon Barkley. Big Ten freshman of the year, would go on to set the Penn State all-time record for total touchdowns as well. And just had a sensational career the whole way through. The biggest concern was that after putting up 3,000 yards in his first couple of seasons, that he comes out this year, just looks nothing like himself. Honestly, got benched for Kaytron Allen once James Franklin was fired. And still, like, I think like Mike Washington, he's the ideal frame, 6 foot, 225. You love that. And I think he has elite speed. I think he would go out there and run a 4.34 or a 4.35 if he was healthy. I'm just getting him 8 picks later than Washington, so I love it here.
Seth's playing Pokemon here. All the Penn State backs, got to collect them all. Well, has to.
Let me. I'm kind of curious, Debro, for your thoughts here on Singleton, because I don't have any disagreement, Seth, that the traits are all there. I think. Yes. He would have been a combine warrior. I think he's one of these guys that's kind of built in the lab. I don't think people realize how fast he is relative to his size too. But Debro, what's your thoughts on him? Concerns for him? Obviously we both let him fall to this point too. So what are your thoughts on Singleton?
Seth already knows I'm a Singleton hater. I
kind of felt that, so I felt. I'm not the host, but I felt like I could give you a chance.
I'm not that high on him, man. Whether it's a tape or film stuff, I know that he's a freak athlete. I know all of that. I don't think it consistently translates to the football field, like most people do. And this is, I'm not tossing shade at Seth. This is just difference in opinions here. And with Singleton, like when I look at a guy that over the last 3 years, he is ranked 152nd, 56th, and 125th in yards after contact per attempt. In breakaway rate, because he's so damn fast, except for he's 143rd, 44th, and 140th in those metrics.
Yeah, that's fair.
That kind of stuff is concerning to me. And from my tape eval, I think it kind of lines up. So like,
is it vision? Is it patience?
I think it is vision.
What do you see, Debro?
I think he's a linear upright runner, man, and I think like he doesn't translate the workout and the because we see this all the time, man. Like, tell me about like, okay, when everybody let's be kind of rewind. When everybody evaluated somebody like a Nico Collins when he came out of freaking Michigan, you were like, this dude is an otherworldly alien athlete, but he was raw and he wasn't translating all of that physical ability to the field and how he ran routes and the numbers and everything else. Now he figured it out in the freaking NFL, but we've also seen like the flip side of that where it's like guys like Rachaad White when he came out and everybody's like, oh my God, he's a ridiculous athlete and he's this type of receiver and stuff like that. And it's like, Rachaad White has never been a top tier tackle breaker and he's never been what I think everybody hoped he would be in the NFL. And for me, that's how Singleton kind of feels like for me. It's like, I don't dispute a lot of the traits that he has. I just don't see them show up in the analytics and on the field consistently.
That's fair. I honestly, going into this football season, I was so in on Singleton, actually thinking about them playing Notre Dame, going back 2 years. And he did really well in that game. And then this year, I think, and then looking at some of the tape further, for me, my concerns are that he doesn't actually run as explosive when contacted, and he also doesn't run away from contact when needed to as much. A lot of his big explosive plays, you just don't see him have anything other than green in front of him. So, I think at this point, it's probably not a horrible pick because of the upside traits, but and there's really not that much left that really makes me say you can't take Nick Singleton here.
Because he has the pedigree, and everybody knows that if he could have tested, he would have tested really well. So it's I think there's a high floor in the NFL draft for him, even though he didn't do the combine, and even though he has the foot injury. Like, I don't think he's a guy we're going to see drop out of the NFL draft.
No, and I think the last tiebreaker here is that, and this is positive for Singleton, is that in Devy leagues, right, people have basically had this name. He's a very well-known name, and people have had this on their board. So if he lands in a decent spot and he has some production early, this is a guy that people, I think, will comfortably push up their dynasty ranks. Yep. So in this range, I think that's kind of where I wouldn't let him go much further than here either.
Can we call that the Blake Corum corollary?
The Corum effect. I like that. I do. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah. Let's go ahead, Adam. Last pick for you in the second round at the 210. Who is it?
Jeremy Bernard. And I'll be honest with you here. This is where I still like him, but I struggle to find for him where he's going to be a difference maker for me at the receiver position, especially like the combine was fine. Nothing checked the boxes, right? He checked what I was looking to have him do. I think this is going to kind of come down to format for me. And I play in a lot of best ball leagues. In best ball, I want receivers like this on my team. I think in a lot of lineup leagues, Jeremy Bernard, guys like Deion Brooks, some of the guys I take later, I'm probably going to be looking to try to swing elsewhere, either trade the pick or draft running backs that frankly don't have that much upside. That's kind of where we get to in this late part of the second, early part of the third. If I'm just being transparent about the 26 class, this is where I start to really be like, they could be fine NFL players. I just don't see a lot of fantasy upside, right? And difference making upside, needle moving upside here.
Sure, and you don't want to be stuck with bench cloggers, right? That's the worst thing in Dynasty is just to have a bunch of guys you can't use, and you can't really get anything from the trade market for them either. Derek, where are you going at 211?
I'm going to go with a guy that right now I've got a few more tight ends to watch in this class, but he's kind of in a tier by himself. He didn't test, but I think you see enough on the film to where I think he's got 4.6 speed. He's very athletic. He's got receiving upside and chops. I'm going to take Max Clare, tight end out of Ohio State. The analytics lineup as well. Like he was 27th in YAC in 2025. Ohio State just doesn't really use the freaking tight ends, and a lot of that comes down to the talent that he's playing around him. You know what I mean? Like when you're sitting behind Jeremiah Smith and freaking Carnell Tate, who I just like wax poetic about, it's going to be hard to earn a high target share and stuff like that. But again, we are discussing a tight end that in 2024, he was 11th in YAC amongst all tight ends and 11th in yards per route run. So the analytics and the tape line up that like this is a player that Claire could go in. I'm not going to say I'm projecting it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of these like round 2 tight ends that like, he gets drafted and then kind of like a la Brenton Strange or somebody like that where exactly where everybody's kind of like, what? And then like, in the NFL, all the NFL execs are like, yep, okay, check there. He's gone. But I think like probably projecting round 3 draft capital, I think is pretty fair for him right now. And I'm in on him at that point. That's kind of if you look back over the history of the NFL and all these different guys, the George Kittles, the Mark Andrews, and I'm not Harold Fannin, all those different guys, you get round 3 or round 4 draft capital, that's totally freaking fine because if you can play, you can play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like the pick there, and I'm honestly, frankly, surprised this guy's still on the board. But give me Jacoby Lane here, wide receiver out of USC, because as much as I've enjoyed watching Lemon out there in Southern California the past few seasons, I've really liked Jacoby Lane in this Lincoln Riley-led offense, right? I mean, just felt like whenever Jaden Maeva is scrambling around and needs a big play, Lane was consistently there. 12 receiving touchdowns as a sophomore, 5th in the country. Then comes back this year and just really puts it all together in terms of production. 49 receptions, 745 yards, 4 touchdowns. And like, this isn't the USC offense that I at least grew up with, where it's Reggie Bush, Lindale White, all these absolute studs. It was a much more conservative one than we've seen in the past, where the defense actually played somewhat better than we can remember, at least from Lincoln Riley-led defenses. So I really think that like no one's really talking about him after the combine when he checked all the boxes. 6'4", scored a 9.69 RAS as well, 6th best in this class, which includes a 4.47 40 time, which at 6'4" is pretty dang good. So I think the former 4-star did enough in the pre-draft process as well as in season to keep himself as a day 2 pick here, which just makes that hill easier to climb. Once you get into day 3, that hill is way tougher to climb into viable fantasy production. So Adam, any thoughts here on the last 2 picks of the second round?
Well, I will say this, for me, Jacoby Lane, I actually just got done going back and watching him again. He's going to be someone that I would have taken transparently. He would be ahead of Jeremy Bernard for me at this point in my ranks now. So it's not like a crazy gap for me, but I will say I definitely would prefer Lane. So that was one I want to have back. And it's funny, though, I will tell you that going into round 3 here, you definitely sniped me. I was hoping I could get him in front of Deion Burks. And obviously, you got him here. So I like his game. I do think, again, for fantasy upside and difference-making ability, I'm not sure that it exists, but I will say in this range, he's closer to the Brazel tier for me than he is the guys like Jeremy Bernard and Deion Burke. So I like that pick a lot.
Okay. Real quick, Adam, if you can go back and do it over again, would you take Lane over Malachi Fields with what you know? Because I have Lane right ahead of Fields in my rankings.
It's funny because I have Lane, Fields, Brazel, and Hurst in a tier. So
gotcha.
I will tell you at the moment right now, it's like I don't really see a lot of difference in Dynasty.
So you're just going to take the guy that falls last in that tier, pretty much.
Exactly. So, but I will say that kind of goes to my point where I think Lane for me for sure should have gone ahead of Bernard, and he's closer to 16 realistically in my rankings than he is 24 where he got picked there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. And before we get into the third round, a real quick reminder that today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, Florida's official sports book. March is in the air, and that means college basketball takes center stage. The stakes are rising, the shots are falling, and now's the time to hit the hardwood with Hard Rock Bet. With hoops on every single night, there's always a chance to build a same-game parlay and score major buckets, baby. That's right. And even if you miss the tip-off of the big game, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet gets you in on the action live all game long from the first bucket to the final buzzer. So you're never too late to find a winner or grab that player prop that you had circled. Sign up today and double your winnings on your first bet for the 10 first bets you place, max of $50. That's right. If you had won $100 on your SGP, let's go ahead and make that $200. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal book for whenever you're in the state of Florida. And it's also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, and Michigan for those Wolverine fans. Coming soon to more states very soon. Plus, the Hard Rock Bet app also offers new promos daily. So whenever you're listening, just fire up the app and check out what they've got going on any day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app now and make your first deposit. And Adam, we're going to go ahead and open the third round with a player from you, someone that I had a 45-1 ticket on to run the fastest 40. I knew it was a long shot, but it felt good after that first set of wide receivers on Saturday.
Absolutely, man. And he listen, his frame kind of requires, and that was the thing about it for me. At this part, actually, believe it or not, we hadn't quite seen this part of the combine yet when we made this top of the third. Yeah. But for me, his draft capital is going to be obviously something to keep in mind here. But I needed to see this for me to feel anything positive about being a third round pick in dynasty drafts. He's got, the frame is small, but he does have elite speed, as you see. And I think it would be interesting to see him in a landing spot where he's kind of attached to a gunslinger. And I think that would be a big boon for him potentially to have some type of a rise. I have a lot of questions about his game still, but there's one thing you can't teach. And, as Pat Summerall used to say, speed kills.
Yeah, Deion Burks was certainly someone whenever John Mateer needed a big play, whether they were trailing in that LSU game, whether they're trailing against South Carolina, Burks was that big play waiting to happen. Derek, where are you going here at the 302, my friend?
So I know this is going to be a controversial pick. One, where I'm selecting this guy in a one quarterback format. Two, the fact that he is the QB2 off the board here, and I don't care. I'm taking Cole Payton here, quarterback out of North Dakota State, and I'm projecting some draft capital here. Like, I'm buying into the buzz that he could go round 2, round 3. Yeah. I'm totally fine with that. In a one quarterback format, I want to be very, very specific about this. If I'm taking a quarterback outside of that doesn't have that type of draft capital where he goes in the first round of the NFL draft, you have to have rushing upside for me. Yeah. And so that's why I'm taking Cole Payton here. Because if he does work out, this is the same bet that I feel like people made on Jalen Milroe last year, or they made on previous guys. So they're going to make in Taylon Green in the 4th or 5th round.
I was just going to say that Taylon Green is going to be a name I was going to bring up. Go ahead, you talk though. But
that's fine. But I think the difference between those two guys is they're both ridiculously athletic. They both carry the rushing upside. You stack them up as prospects. And to me, there is no competition with Cole Payton as a passer versus Taylon Green as a passer. That's where I think it absolutely is different for me and why I'm taking Cole Payton here. If he gets that type of draft capital. And the other thing I will just throw out here, I'm not drafting Ty Simpson. I am out on Ty Simpson. He is not a first-round quarterback grade for me. I'm not a believer. I'm just not. If I'm wrong on that, fine. Yeah. I'm wrong.
Well, let's go ahead and go right there to the 303 where I have Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama. He is still my quarterback too. I will say, though, after the Rams just traded out of the back half of the first round, I'm a little bit shaky now whether this guy will be a first-round pick. That's where I was mocking him. That's where I think a lot of people were mocking him. And the metrics don't jump off the screen by any means. He did lead the SEC and pass completions, but he also led in attempts, and he threw for, roughly 3,600 yards, 28 touchdowns. but I also don't think the arm strength is elite. What I really like about Ty Simpson, though, he's like a bit of a field general, right? Like I think between the helmet, this guy is really sharp. I think if he got in a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan type of offense, that he could really do something well. And he kind of proved that this past year when he had absolutely no run game. Jam Miller was an absolute scrub when he got back, got banged up even before he got on the field this year. And I don't also know if like the Ryan Grubb offense is just a little bit overrated these days as well, but I really liked what he did at Bama as far as like moving the chains when he had to be the entire offense. Specifically, if you guys remember in that Iron Bowl game where it came down to it, Ty Simpson was putting balls on a laser when they knew he was in obvious passing down situation. So Adam, I would love to get your conjecture here at this point. Ty Simpson, Cole Payton, do you have one over the other? Are you interested in either when it comes to a one quarterback format?
I will tell you this, as far as well, to answer the first question, it's Cole Payton over Ty Simpson.
Ooh,
I'm probably
wow.
not taking Ty Simpson, honestly. I mean, unless he really falls in Superflex, frankly. Just
Okay.
not I'm just not a believer, to be honest with you. I
Okay.
won't sugarcoat it. And I will tell you that Taylon Green is someone, as I look back throughout this process and in Superflex, I'm fully aware and that there's a chance he may end up being a complete bust. And he has some, he makes some very big throws on plays, but he also, you could tell the accuracy is not all the way lined in all the time. To me, the one thing is, though, especially after the combine and seeing more of his game, like he reminds me of Terrell Pryor, honestly. Like the athletic upside.
Okay.
He's 6'6", 4.36. I mean, basically, if I'm going to bet on a quarterback really late in drafts, it's going to be someone that I don't necessarily believe has to have the best upside as far as, NFL success. I'm just looking for, can he give me fantasy success?
Yeah.
I look at like kind of what Malik Willis did this last year. He's someone like that where I don't necessarily know if it's going to translate to long-term dynasty upside. But I kind of, at this point for quarterback, whether it's in one quarterback or Superflex, I'm looking to kind of shoot my shot on that upside of, if this guy just gets behind center, he could take off for a 50-yard run at any point. Terrell Pryor still to this date, by the way, longest rush of any quarterback. I think it was 98 yards over in Oakland.
Okay.
So,
yeah. On my Pittsburgh Steelers, I remember that very clearly. And also the pride of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Terrell
hey, listen, not to toot my own horn, but back in the day, gave Terrell Pryor some work, played him in AAU. Dewan Blair. Dude is Dude's a freak athlete, though. He can basically
and
do
Dewan
everything.
Blair was on that team? Oh, my goodness.
Shout out to the Pittsburgh Jots. Yeah, Solon Case Classic. Yeah.
So Taylon Green, is he over Cole Payton and Simpson for you? Is he your QB2?
Yeah, he would be. But honestly, him and Cole Payton are both in a similar tier. Cole Payton, not quite as athletic as far as like home run hitting ability. But Cole Payton, honestly, to me, has the ability to make plays with his legs and scramble, and probably has enough as a rusher to be a plus guy in that field. So I'm definitely still in on Cole Payton. Ty Simpson, I'm not as high on as those two guys.
Okay. All right. Well, Adam, with all his surprises, now that I know he's a top tier athlete going against one of Pitt Panthers all-time legends at basketball and Terrell Pryor on the same team. What are you doing here at 304? Any shockers under the hood for you this time, Adam?
No, I don't think there's any shockers at least left for me in this draft, to be completely honest with you. Chris Bell, though, listen, I think he's a solid prospect. I do think for me, draft capital is going to be a big thing. And when I look across the board at mocks, there's not a consensus, frankly. I like his game. I do like a lot of the traits he has. I think he does need to work on his footwork a little bit and refining routes. But I don't know. I think at this point in the draft, I felt very good about this pick. The only thing I would throw in versus any of these players is if you wanted to shoot your shot on a Taylon Green because of upside, that's fine. Outside of that, Chris Bell, to me, this pick, I feel good about it. I just don't feel great about making picks in this range, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'm here for Chris Bell, another guy who's kind of seen a revolving door of middling quarterbacks and has still produced down there at Louisville. So, Derek, you are on a player going back to not your alma mater, but what should be your alma mater since you are technically a booster at this point. So where are you going here at 305?
Dude, he crushed the combine, and I think we did this mock all over again. I think he would go higher, probably, getting into the second round. And I think some of this is also with me projecting draft capital here. Like everybody talks about, this wide receiver is going to go round 2. Again, there's only 32 freaking teams drafting in round 2. I don't think he makes it in round 2 of the NFL draft. I don't think that, because he didn't have the the ability with the stage, like a previous North Dakota State alum, to go to the Senior Bowl and put on everything at film and just show out like that. So I don't think he gets into the second round of the NFL draft. But Bryce Lance, dude, huge fan of his game. And again, going back to guys that just tested and jumped out of the freaking combine, Jim, it's like, bro, like at 6'3", 204, he ran at 4'3", 440. He jumped 41.5 in the vert, 11.1 in the broad. I mean, this is, and I stay away from stuff like this because of same college, same da-da-da-da-da. I'm not gonna bypass it because I just think he's Christian Watson 2.0. That's the way that I view his game. I love his game, and to put some analytics behind all of this, amongst all FBS and FCS wide receivers last year with at least 50 targets, Bryce Lance 8th in receiving grade, 8th in yards per reception, 6th in yards per route run. It shows up on the film, guys. Like,
yeah,
I think he could play. I really do. And this is where it comes down to, like, guys like Bryce Lance and Ted Hurst. Those are the players where it's like, I'm going to be above consensus, and where I think that if they hit out of this class, then people walk away from this class and say, you know what? This class was a lot better than we gave it credit for.
It's interesting you brought up Watson too, because, well, not just obviously the school and the comparison there, but Christian Watson, you go back to the 22 class, right? And the 22 class is the last class that, since it's funny, it's starting to feel old, I remember doing content on, and it was like, it had this stink about it, right? Similar to this 26 class where it's like, people don't want these picks. I remember people didn't want first round picks. They didn't want any 22 picks. And Christian Watson was a guy that ended up going late first and early second in that class when, the combine hit, when his draft capital came out. And honestly, with Debro's takes and where he's at it with receivers, I think I'll probably end up, on his own opinion, just probably taking some shots on Lance here, just hearing that, because it's one of those in this range again, where if I miss, I'm kind of expecting to in this range. But if you get a handful of shares of a Bryce Lance who gets, let's say, looks even like Christian Watson at some point, he's going to have a value surge that's going to at least multiplier 2, 3, 4 times what you drafted him at in this late third.
Well, and people want to hate on that class just to bring up that class. We do all remember that Wandale Robinson came out of that class. George Pickens came out of that class. Alec Pierce, because we can all have revisionist history about, like, Alec Pierce has turned into something. Khalil Shakir. So Jamison Williams. The list goes on, and people get so tied to their priors and stuff about classes, or like their thoughts on a class. And it's like, dude, you also have to understand, like, there's a lot of these guys where people are going to be wrong about, and we're going to have guys that come out of the woodwork. For everybody that's like, but if he doesn't get drafted in the first round, he's not a good player. Oh, okay, because we don't have the Cooper Kupps of the world. We don't have the Adam Thielens of the world. We don't have the Terry McLaurins of the world. We don't have Jalen Coker's of the world. All the Puka Nakuas of the world. Like, all of these other guys where it's like, yeah, we can play the draft capital game, but then you look at all of the top-end fantasy producers and how this actually shakes out, and it's like, I don't want to go betting on outliers, but the NFL is full of them. Full of them.
For sure. And one thing, it's really interesting, actually, as you're bringing this up, this is a more holistic point, but I think it goes to Lance and a lot of the people that you're going to draft here. People have a feeling and a prior about the 26 class, and they're probably not, like, trading out of these picks, let's say, is probably not going to be super desirable unless Debro's coming to get Hurst from you, and you can tell, right? Like, he's coming to get his guy.
Right.
That said, you stick and pick, right, with some of these. If there's any, like, iota towards the end of the year where you're seeing upside, people really, though, they hang on to that so strongly. You're talking about guys going into year 2 that have shown production and have shown some substance. You're going to see that people will trade significantly more for that. So I think this is kind of where 3rd and 4th round for me is going to be. I'm just shooting my shot on guys that I do believe have upside and the ability to give me something. That will ultimately, you'll have to wait a little bit, but probably trade you significantly more than whatever you're going to trade out of these picks, realistically on the clock.
I agree.
Well, and that's where I'm going at 306 with just one of my guys. And it's not just because he has the same first name and also has some cool glasses like I do, but Seth McCowan out of Kentucky, running back, and huge winner from Indianapolis, right? 9.42 RAS, 3rd best among running backs in this class, 123rd best all time. And I've been telling you guys, since I laid eyes on this kid in week 1 when I was sweating out that Toledo ticket to cover against UK, McGowan was someone just always popped for me. And like, certainly an older prospect, right? Bounced around from Oklahoma, spent some time in jail for a couple of months there. 4-star recruit, though, coming out of high school. And then he lands with New Mexico in 2024, finds his footing, second team all-conference honors there, goes to Lexington then, where he really led Kentucky just as a whole offensively, right? 725 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 5th best in the conference. And it's particularly impressive. Like, to me, I always like to add context. Like, who were you working with? Who was your offensive coordinator? Was your quarterback? It was big Zach Calzada, who's bounced all around college football, is absolutely garbage. Freshman Cutter Boley, who he just got a nice NIL deal elsewhere, but I still think he's kind of cheeks too. So very shifty guy, very angry runner, probably the best in a power run type of scheme. I would love to see him with the Saints or somewhere like that in a Kellen Moore system. Derek, you've compared him to Isaiah Pacheco. I've compared him to Rico Dowdle, another former SEC guy that I think he's just another strong north-south runner. Not going to be a guy who you want as your starter. He can be a spot starter for a week, but more of a change of pace guy that I love to get here at 306. Adam, also a winner, was someone you're taking here at 307 from the combine.
Yeah, let's be transparent again. This pick was made after the combine, and listen,
good pick though.
I liked Caldwell, honestly. I'd watch him. I did like him. He was kind of someone I was thinking, all right, maybe I can get some really late shares. I'm thinking like 4th round kind of. And I'm not saying that maybe you still can't, but what I will tell you is I think for the most part in a lot of savvy leagues, that day is come and gone. He showed out at the combine, honestly. I mean, you look at his RAS score, it's perfect. You can't be a better relative athletic. You can't have a better relative athletic score than him. So to me, one thing, again, I'm just going to keep stressing the same thing, which is what I'm going to be drafting in the 3rd and the 4th round in this class, and I'm normally always doing, is what's the upside if something hits? What if the draft capital checks out, which we don't know yet, right? If these things fall in line, and I'm looking at all the players I'm considering drafting, I think you make the case Jeff Caldwell has as high of a ceiling of anybody in this round 3. Definitely not a surefire thing, but listen, he's got a lot of desirable traits, and he's got home run hitting ability. I know that for sure.
Debro, you have someone at 308 who a bit of a loser coming out of Indianapolis, someone I was not expecting to test like a freak by any means, but certainly, filled out that slot wide receiver echelon that we were kind of billing him as.
Yeah, I'll take a shot on Kevin Coleman Jr. At this point. I'm a big believer in the talent. I know he didn't test well. I mean, he ran a 4.4, man. I'm not knocking him for a lot of the other testing and stuff like that. Him running a 4.4 at his size, I think is totally fine. I think his really his ability and secret sauce is, I think he's an underrated route runner. I think in the NFL, is he probably going to be slot confined considering his size? Probably. But he does have the route running chops, I think, to play outside some. And if you're looking at a guy that could go, round 3, round 4 of the NFL draft, probably a round 4 guy, and he ends up turning into somebody like a Wan'Dale Robinson, I would not be shocked at all, because the talent's there. Also the analytics, top 40 in receiving grade over the last 2 years, 17th and 5th in missed tackles forced. And that's not like a super sticky metric, but especially at his size, I do think it's notable, because it's not like we're talking about him like a Lewis Bond or somebody else that's built like a damn bowling ball, and you're like, oh, well, you get screens, and of course you break tackles because you're basically a running back. That's not Kevin Coleman Jr. So for him to have that elusivity after the catch, I think is notable, especially at his size.
Okay. And at the 309, I'm going to go ahead and take a shot on a really good receiving running back. And that's where we're at. If I'm taking a shot at a running back, I want the ceiling outcomes that could come and score fantasy points. And that's what you're getting here with Desmond Reed out of Pitt. Started his collegiate career at Western Carolina, comes to Pittsburgh in 2024, 52 receptions, 579 yards. And the big issue, right? It's the size, 5'6", 174. This guy's tiny, but very much reminds me of Tariq Cohen. If you guys remember back in the day when Tariq Cohen kind of came on the scene, and he is going to have that uphill climb to stay healthy in the league, right? That was kind of what took Tariq Cohen after a couple strong RB2 seasons, ends up getting out of the league because he suffers an ACL and can never really get back. And but I will say, both myself and the books seemingly thought this guy was in the conversation to run the fastest 40 time at the combine. I threw him out. I thought it was going to be closer to 7-1. He came out at plus 115. He was the favorite with Claiborne. Then ends up not running it. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to take a shot on a guy that if he falls into the right coaching staff, I think maybe they can utilize him as a day 3 pick. So Adam, where are you going here? I know you also have another running back to close out your picks at the 310.
Yeah, I different stylistically than Desmond Reed, obviously, but
yeah.
Le'Veon Moss, to me, listen, this is a guy at this point, I'm going the approach of any running back on a 53. I think the thing about Moss is he's a 2-down guy, right? At least we haven't seen pass catching upside from him. But I do think he does show decisiveness as a runner. I don't think he's a crazy athlete, but I do think in the right system, you could see him be someone that's, like an AB, right? A 1-2 punch with someone. And I also think that the concerns are part of the problem is going to be like he has not been able to stay on the field a lot of the time the last couple of years. And there's definitely an injury concern. But if he was able to stay healthy for a season, I think we have seen moments and upside that he's worth a pick in this range and definitely into the 4th round. So I like Le'Veon Moss. It's not like, if you told me he was not going to make the top, first 3 rounds that like I'm shocked. But I think at this point for me, I'm definitely going to pivot away from a lot of the receivers I don't really like past this point, and I'm going to be shooting my shot on running backs that I think hopefully go to a good situation and find a way to get on the field, a la Rico Dowdle, right? It took some time, but eventually when he does get on, you start to see, okay. And I'll say, like, stylistically, he reminds me kind of a lot of Tank Bigsby. Not nearly as much of a Le'Veon Moss does. Not as much of a prospect and as highly touted, but the stylistic running comp for me is Tank Bigsby for him.
I think it's a good one. And like whenever we saw Mike Elko have to start deploying Reuben Owens in this A&M offense after Moss got hurt the past 2 seasons, it really kind of took a downward trend where it was all on Marcel Reed's legs and arms, which is not really a place you usually want to be. So Le'Veon Moss, he was certainly a difference maker at A&M. We'll see if he can be that in the NFL. And Derek, you have a player here that he's someone Devy managers know very well. He was a very highly touted prospect coming out of high school. He's bounced around a little bit in college, as most prospects do at this point.
I feel like, and RIP, I feel like I'm playing the same game that I did in yesteryear with this pick with incredibly talented college player, but is he slot confined? Does he have upside to play the outside? I feel like this could be Rondell Moore 2.0, but I'm willing to take the swing with Zachariah Branch here. The athleticism is real. The talent is, dude, he can go. We saw at the combine, the speed is real. Now, it just comes down to, is he a slot confined player? Is he, for all the things that we've kind of talked about other slot types on this show, it's like in the new NFL, that's a big worry. But there are spots in Branch's tape where he shows you and he offers you like some route running chops, like where you'll see him dance in a cornerback's blind spot. You'll see him set up guys. You'll see some of these routes where it's like, yeah, sure. Like, okay, is there also the bottom could fall out of this because like 49% of his freaking targets were screens last year? Absolutely. And again, that's where I'm talking about. I'm playing kind of the same exact game that I did with Rondell Moore. It's like, I think maybe he has a ceiling for more, but if the NFL doesn't see that, or they say, look, we're drafting you because we know what we're getting. You're going to play the slot. You're going to do our manufactured stuff, and that's who you're going to be. That could absolutely happen, but that risk is all baked into it, drafting him in the freaking 3rd round.
Unlike Rondell Moore, where we were taking Rondell Moore's early 2nd round. Sometimes I was seeing him going in the first round of rookie drafts. So, I think it's a great value here.
RIP to Rondell Moore, by the way. Crazy.
Absolutely.
Incredibly talented kid.
But I think that's a good call, D-Bro. And for me, you did start to see a little more later in his career, at least on film, some, development from him, as well as the way in which he was being used. But for the most part, man, it's a lot of gimmicky touches, which just I've Rondell Moore. Shout out to me drafting him as a lot in that early second. I've been burned by the gimmicky stuff a lot, so it's almost
he easily could be Malachi Corley 2.0. That could happen. That absolutely could happen.
And
but again,
it's just one of those things where now for me, it's maybe it's the touching the stove, so to speak. But I've done it enough to where now it's almost like I purposely will avoid it if I find something that's in a similar range that I could get myself to go with. I've been burned too many times by the gimmick.
Well, and that's fair. I guess we're splitting hairs here. That's the exact reason why I drafted Kevin Coleman Jr. ahead of Zachariah Branch in this mock, because I think Kevin Coleman shows you more route running chops, and it wasn't at all this gimmicky type of usage with him. And that's why I think he deserves and he should go. Now, obviously, draft capital is going to tell us a whole lot with all of these kind of slight archetype guys, like anybody from Antonio Williams to Branch to Coleman Jr. to, if you go further down, like, Anderson out of LSU, like all these guys, they could go anywhere from the 3rd to the freaking 6th round, and none of that would surprise me.
Yep.
But if we're just talking about the film and the skill set, that's why I have Coleman above Branch in my rankings and why I like him a little bit more.
I agree with you. And I think I'm kind of curious to see what the listeners end up saying here too. Like, hard to believe you brought up, Seth, that he was Debbie Darling, so to speak. Hard to believe that you can't get some pushback that he's going 35th overall in a mock draft we're doing here. It's crazy because people were, a few years ago talking about he's basically, you got to trade me a legitimate NFL player in a Devy league or for him. So pretty wild to see.
I'll go ahead and round us out here, guys, at the 312 with Eli Heidenreich, running back, wide receiver out of Navy. Just going to take a shot here on another receiving back because this is one of my favorite players coming out of the American. And like, I kept making the mistake of betting this season on the service academies. And like, so I watched way too much Navy, man. I mean, I could tell you Blake Horvath's ex-girlfriend, current girlfriend, date of birth, everything about this team, I feel like. And Heidenreich, every time you watch the midshipmen, I mean, this guy just pops, man. Totaled nearly 500 rushing yards this past season, plus 51 receptions, 941 yards in the best G5 conference in the country. And like, I want to put that in perspective, though. Okay, I say 900 receiving yards. Navy only had less than 1,700 total passing yards, right? Like, Heidenreich was over accounted for 55.7% of their passing yards here. He can be used out wide. He's ran out of the slot. He can be used at fullback, tight end, running back. Like, this guy's kind of just a jackknife, right? He can be used a little bit of everything. So I'm not sure who takes him. I'm not sure how they deploy him. But like, when we're just talking about athletic freaks in a way who can play a little bit of everywhere, that's kind of what I want here. Plus, had a really good combine as well, right? 8.53 RAS. That was the 4th best for the running backs, which includes a 4.44 second 40 time. So for a guy who can also block with the best of them, we know you have to do that if you're going to be a Navy football player. Heidenreich is a guy I'm very interested in. So that does it for the mock draft and all the picks. I do want to get us out of here on just any top level analysis either of you gentlemen can provide. Derek, any initial takeaways from you for doing the first one quarterback mock of the season?
Dude, I think, again, like we've kind of talked about where the tiers lie and stuff like that. I think draft capital is going to absolutely move a ton of these players around the chessboard, and really separate some guys, whether it's like moving up or down a tier, especially at the wide receiver, this wide receiver class. I think guys where they, you could project draft capital from 3rd to 5th round for a bunch of these different guys. So landing spots and draft capital is going to absolutely make or break a lot of these guys in that 3rd and 4th tier. And I'll just close this out with, before Adam gives his take, I think Eli Heidenreich could be exactly who everybody wants Adam Randall to be.
Okay. Adam, any thoughts for you on this exercise? For me, like, I just think it's funny how like little the change from Superflex to one quarterback actually was, because I'm like you, I play mostly in Superflex Dynasty, but compared to recent years where the classes are littered at quarterback, like, I'm really not touching any of these quarterbacks aside from Ty Simpson, Fernando, and if you want to take a shot on Peyton or Taylor Green here, like in the 3rd, 4th round, I'm okay with it. But like, it doesn't change that much for you. Any thoughts you had from this?
Yeah, well, I'll say this kind of confirms something I've been coming around to as far as like comparing this class. And basically, in my personal estimation, like this class versus 22, or other years where you'll say, the class has a down overall sentiment about it and people don't like it. The thing that does make this class troublesome and why it becomes so, I think, thin so quick is basically, you talked about it from that standpoint. When you talk about Mendoza, is basically Mendoza and then a wish cast, or you're really hopeful of where they're going to go with landing spot, getting on the field. Who even knows, right? But you think about quarterback, running back, and tight end. We basically have at those positions, like you have one really sure thing, and then tight end, maybe you could say two, maybe. But you have one guy that holds the entire class's cards, and then it's like, I don't really know how much I care about the rest of them. Right. That is the biggest thing. If you look at like 22, it was deeper at the running back position. So running back, quarterback, tight end, it's just very shallow. So I think that's why you see, and going back to some of the times where, I took Price and running backs a little bit earlier when I'm picking between receivers or running backs in that range. So I just think that, don't get it confused. There's still very good talent in this class. Wide receiver is very good in this class, right? Don't get the class overall misconstrued. But that, I think, is kind of where this class hinges at the back end, and what will keep, the differences from this class being, potentially as bad as people say it. I think the first round is tons of talent. I think as far as the draft in the fantasy, right? First 12 picks, first 15 picks. You start getting that mid to late second round, you're going to, start probably drafting on conviction. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but that's going to be holding really why this class is going to have such a negative, feeling towards it.
Absolutely agree with everything you outlined, Adam. I think like RB2 through RB6-ish, and the third through like third and fourth tiers of wide receivers of this class are really going to define this class. Does it buck the trend of like, or does it make everybody like have like egg on their face and this class is better than what people think? I think those two spots in this rookie class are what's going to make or break this class of, is it better than people talk about, or is it absolutely terrible?
100%. And one thing I will say too, this is why, again, third and fourth round, especially, like probably even second round in this class, based on what the market right now is saying and trading for, I think realistically, I'll end up missing plenty, but there's going to be, even if the class is bad, plenty of guys that pop in the second, in the third, and the fourth round. So, kind of having your conviction, studying up on these players, and, drafting them, you're going to hit some in a multitude of leagues, which I play in a portfolio. So I think that's one of those things where I'm continuing to dive into the film deeper and trying to get as much as I can on these players, so that I'm taking my shots on guys I believe have that upside to hit. And if that does hit, it's going to be worth significantly more than what you draft in those rounds.
Always the best in the business right here, folks, on the Fantasy Pros NFL Draft Show. That's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you're checking out everything Adam is doing over at South Harmon Fantasy Football and BDGE as well. For us here at Fantasy Pros, easiest way to support us, please smash that like button if you haven't already, if you enjoyed this episode. And also make sure you're subscribing to the brand new Fantasy Pros Dynasty YouTube channel and that audio feed. Be sure to check out all the great written content and the tool suite on fantasypros.com. Our recent NFL mock drafts are there, ECR rookie rankings, Dynasty rookie mock draft simulator, all for you to take advantage of. So put your best foot forward this season and go check that stuff out. Thanks for watching. For Adam McFerran and Derek Brown, I'm Seth Woolcock. Take care, y'all.